You are now listening and watching the He Say She Say Sports Show. I'm your host, King Ralph, here with the homie Kai was popping Brody.
What's good? What's good? It's another week. I'm happy to be here and enjoying life. We got a lot to discuss today, a lot of different things going on in the sports world.
Word, word. Yeah, it's been eventful. It's been eventful.
Oh,
I even
most
I
most
thought
definitely.
about I even thought about because one of the homies on he's no longer talking about football. He's just focusing on basketball. But I was just like, I don't know if I want to go that route because there's still so much to talk about as far as football. I do
Yeah.
eventually want to get people on here to talk about baseball, hockey, and even boxing or UFC.
Don't forget your favorite sport, NASCAR, man.
Hey man, making left turns all day, baby.
Hey, Bubba Wallace.
Hey, right, right.
Oh
Hey,
man.
he was just on Shannon Sharp podcast, and I enjoyed that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, I enjoy that. I enjoy that show actually.
Actually, somebody we're talking about today, he just dropped the episode with him, Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, I have yet to see the full episode. I only saw a certain clip that he had posted, but I know that he posted both the full and the clip. So I'm definitely gonna check that out.
And before we get going, just want to send a shout out to the homie. Grabbed the wrong side of my shirt. My boy Ian. This is his line. It's called
Woo,
Drip Dreams
woo.
Realized in Paint. Follow him on Instagram. And links in his bio. I'll even put it at the end of the video. I'll put a link to it, so you grab your drip shirt and let's get this joint going. So
All right.
not a stranger to being in anything of in the public eye, but Draymond Green has some strong things to say after playing the Cleveland Cavaliers, in which Andre Drummond was in street clothes because the team decided they're going to try to trade him. So let's not play him at all. After the way they vilified James Harden, and he even came out afterwards and said that he didn't handle it the best way, but he pretty much was vilified leading up to his trade. Is there a double standard for players when it comes to being traded and wanting to be traded?
I actually do. I agree with Draymond Green in terms of the level of professionalism that the players themselves have to exude, that the GMs, the owners, the organizations, I guess, do not. There's a double standard there. I believe Draymond's point was that, okay, if a player requests a trade, right, or a player doesn't want to be traded and feels some type of way, then they're the villain. But an owner or GM, excuse me, at any moment can trade a player during the course of a game, like literally
Right.
during the course of a game, or in DeMarcus Cousins' case, an All-Star game, and he just found out with no contact with the player's agent, with the player themselves, and so then you expect them in the aftermath, right, to act fine about that. Like I think that's not even right. You know what I'm saying? Or if
Right.
they request a trade. Now, Draymond did say in regards to James Harden's situation that James Harden did mail it in. His last days in Houston, but at the same time, right? He doesn't like the fact that the owners or the GMs, the front office, can at any time with no penalty, with no vilification, can literally just come out and just be like, all right, you're gone. You're off my team. See ya. It was nice knowing you. So I do believe there's a double standard. I believe there needs to be some type of common ground, some communication between the two parties in this regard. Um, when we're talking about the players and we're talking about the front office. So I think I just think it's unfair. And I'm actually that's one of the few things I agree with Draymond Green about. So that's kind of where my stance is on it. I just don't, because I feel like, and I know people say don't put your job in professional sports. It's two different things. But how would you feel if a boss came up to you and was like, "Hey, look, yeah, um, I'm gonna take you off the clock real quick. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, go home. And you don't even know why or things of that nature. So, I believe that the lack thereof of communication has caused problems, and you expect them to act professional the entire time. So I think for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if you come out and should I say a GM comes out and acts a certain way by moving that way, and the player's upset about it, hey, that's the problem that you created. So
Right.
that's my piece.
I feel it like I feel it because I see it a lot where it does kind of have that slave like element to it
Yeah,
because it's even like even on the other end like to talk about NFL when Deshaun Watson came out and said he wanted to be traded, like Dick Vermeil vilified him in a way that where he said he pretty much lost respect for Deshaun Watson, and it's
right.
like then when you start listening to the undertone of the comments, even Brett Favre came out and said some things. It's like, fam, like this ain't that day and age. I'm not gonna be putting my body on the line, and I'm
Mhm.
not. I don't have a say, especially when it comes to football, because football is way more like aggressive and you're more injury prone when you play that sport. So like, I just don't think that that's the way to go about it. If you're just gonna be like, oh yeah, you got to shut up and play football, or you got to shut up and dribble, like you can't just
Right.
say like where you're going. Because
Yeah.
especially like when they're doing people like Harrison Barnes being traded in the middle of a game, and it's like you're gonna have to snatch this man off the court while he's hooping,
Hmm.
and it's like that's so crazy to me, and it's like it just shows you like the nature of the business and how to a certain extent people are like property in a
Yeah.
sense.
And Brett Favre was another situation where I thought that was just totally out of left pocket or left field,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a guy that um, I've stated on numerous occasions is one of my all-time favorite quarterbacks. But for him to come out like that, I didn't even like this the tone that he came out of it with. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
that was very, and I was like, bro, and the bigger issue that people had with that was the hypocrisy of Brett Favre holding teams hostage,
right,
and being indecisive and in different manners for years. So it's like, who are you to talk about another player wanting out or another player quarterback in this situation making a decision? Now,
right,
also, if you don't mind me tying in, look at the NFL though. NFL, NBA, and NBA can trade a player at any moment. Where in the NFL, what did they just do with Matthew Stafford? Oh yeah, sure, we'll allow you to have your pick of the litter. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So you get what I'm saying? So I know they call it the no fun league, but at least with the NFL in that one situation, should I say, they had that. Where in the NBA, I never hear anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. To bring it back, um, and segue to another section.
Mm.
We're gonna talk about the Warriors.
Uh-oh.
With the way Steph has been balling, and you're hearing a lot of talks of his numbers being very similar or even better than his MVP years. Do you see the Warriors making the playoffs?
Okay. Yeah. Simple yes or no question, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. At first, it's an early season, shortened, condensed season. But we have to understand there's a play-in tournament, and because there's a play-in tournament, I don't see a team like the New Orleans Pelicans um, beating the Warriors if Steph is on fire, because I feel like star power will shine, right?
right.
Um, I started looking at teams underneath the Warriors. I look at the team like the Sacramento Kings, which are in purgatory. No one cares about the Sacramento Kings. I'm like what Shaq said. I don't care about the Sacramento Queens. We don't care about the Kings, man. Luke Walton, stop it, man. He's a
Right,
junior varsity coach. So when we put those things into perspective and we see how well Steph Curry is playing compared to his MVP season, you have Andrew Wiggins there. You have playoff experience with guys like Draymond Green, with guys like Steph Curry. You have Steve Kerr still coaching. You have Mike Woodson who can actually call the defense. So I actually believe, based off the play-in tournament, they're going to make it. If they don't make it, I think it would be a travesty because you're talking about a unanimous MVP not making the playoffs. Now, I'm not sure if Ralph, but I don't know in the history of the game when a unanimous MVP has missed the playoffs. I know Allen Iverson dragged the 76ers to the NBA Finals. I know Kobe Bean Bryant took the Lakers to the playoffs. And the one year that Shaq had left, the first year he missed it, but people forget he was injured. And Lamar Odom, I believe, missed the last 16 games of that season. So those are the great details people like to leave out. But Kobe was a unanimous MVP. Shaq was a unanimous MVP in 2000. So there's only been very few unanimous MVPs in the history of the league. So I think off the strength of that, Steph Curry has a lot on his plate, and I believe he's going to deliver. I believe, being able to play off the ball, um, be clutch when need be, he can do it. My only qualm with Steph Curry and the Warriors is I want Steph Curry to show more fight when players go at him. I don't want him to be timid. I want him to continuously show fight and get that team into the playoffs, and then lose to the Utah Jazz in the first round. So, so we'll see, man.
Yeah, like right now I'm looking at it. They're 15-13.
Yeah.
They're one game behind the Nuggets and one game in front of the Grizzlies.
Okay.
And the Grizzlies was balling until they had that little run in with COVID.
Yeah.
They was on a winning streak and everything, and then they had that little run in with COVID. That just messed up all the momentum. But
Mm-hmm.
I could see them making it, especially with the play in, and then the teams that are there around.
Yeah.
Because then you got anywhere from the Spurs at 6, the Blazers at 5. Some people feel like they're gonna fall out. Some people feel like they're streaking.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
then there's a possibility because I don't think that the Rockets have played with like a healthy team for majority of the season. So if they could get healthy,
Yeah.
I think that they're under a team that people don't talk about. But to answer the question, I do think that the Warriors will make it.
Mm-hmm.
To definitively answer the question, I do think the Warriors make it. Um, the question for me, I don't know if they make the playoffs, does that automatically give him the MVP nod? Because somebody said
Right.
just
Right.
making the playoffs
Right.
gives him the MVP nod, and I'm like, no, bro, you gotta do something
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. You have to do a Kobe esque, situation where you're averaging 40 every month, and then like,
Right. Yeah.
but it kind of goes
Or like
back to what
Russ
we had
with the
mentioned.
triple double.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And I was gonna say it goes back to what we had mentioned, I think, in an earlier episode that we had where we talked about MVP, and I said that for me, it's about how much lift you give a team and your impact. But the league definition is different than maybe me and your definition. The league definition is always the best player on the best team.
right.
So if that was the case, Donovan Mitchell, who I think does deserve consideration, would be the MVP. But I look at guys like a Chris Paul, where every single team he goes to, he improves it. So I'm like, what are we really looking at? But yeah, Steph Curry, he's definitely in the consideration for MVP, and I would consider him a lot more than some of these other guys. Let's just say that they've decided to put ahead of Steph Curry based off of my definition of what an MVP is supposed to be. So yeah, it's interesting, man.
Yeah, because I think like because Chris Paul, man, I was telling my brother, and I went into this season saying like, yo, I don't see that there's no reason why they can't.
Get to the
And
playoffs and
and
do
they're
something.
and I was talking about a high seed too. I said a top 4 seed,
Right.
and hey, that's 2 years in a row. My man Chris Paul, and I bet on him too that he got his team playing well, because I said that they would be in the top 4 in the West.
Hmm.
Um, and they're fourth right now, one game ahead of the Blazers and 2.5 games from the Clippers. Do you think the Jazz are going to hold on and finish strong and still finish out first? Do you think the Clippers or Lakers will try to catch them?
Okay, so I put um I put money that the Clippers would win the Western Conference and the Lakers would win the championship. That was the original prediction, right? Based off of things we're going. But the moment I put money on the Clippers, got injured, and then Kawhi and PG went into COVID protocol for
Right.
contract tracing. So we talked about that. Now
Yeah.
I'm looking at a team like the Utah Jazz. They seem to have the chemistry going, right? They've added, so let's say they have the return of Bogdanovich, which they were badly missing last season,
Right.
and they had Jordan Clarkson playing that 6-man role. So I'm looking at the team like the Utah Jazz, and I'm like, so far they've suffered no real major injuries. Like Mike Conley always gets hurt,
Right.
and then they haven't really had a crazy COVID situation. They haven't had like a KD going out. They haven't had Kawhi and PG. The Lakers were the only other team, Ralph, that was injury free and no COVID until Anthony Davis, which we'll get into a little bit later. And so I'm gonna say, as barring injury, the Utah Jazz are probably going to win the Western Conference, barring injury, because the Clippers, you have Beverly coming back from a hamstring. He had a hamstring last season. Kawhi, he's no longer load managing, but that provides some wear and tear. He missed a game with a leg contusion. Paul George had foot swelling. So
Right.
off that strength, I'm going to go with the Utah Jazz because I feel like they're the only team so far, knock on wood, that hasn't really suffered any crazy injury, any COVID, and has a chemistry. So how do you kind of see it? Um, you know,
Uh, I feel like it's like a catch-22 because
yeah.
I don't care where they're seated.
hmm
I don't see them beating the Lakers or Clippers if the
Oh,
Lakers
right,
are
right,
both
right,
seated,
right. hmm Yeah.
because Rudy Gobert is definitely the most overrated big man, maybe in NBA history, because I'm like they didn't gave this man back to back or like multiple defensive player of the year awards, and I'm like, bro,
Yeah.
outside of help, really good help defense,
All right.
why does he deserve defensive player of the year? Because I'm seeing him get cooked on the perimeter, so he can't guard. He can't guard on the perimeter,
Mm,
and he's not.
mm.
And when Joel Embiid, the Anthony Davises of the world, to quote Stephen A. Smith, like he's not like stop. I'm seeing him have career nights on this man.
All right.
Jokic on the other, Jokic also like he struggles guarding the top tier bigs. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't understand for him. But for that reason, I don't think it matters where they seed it. But I outside and like after looking at the standings, I think the Lakers and Clippers, they're gonna give
What they have to
enough
do.
effort and stay
Yeah.
engaged enough to stay in that 2-3-1 range. It just
Mm,
depends on what happens with the Jazz as far as health.
mm.
Uh, because I do think that the further they get in the season, teams are not going to be really taking those risks of going out and doing things.
Right.
So it's like, why would I put myself at risk if we're going down a stretch playoff run and I could possibly get COVID? So it's
That's
like
true.
now, like, yeah, I can go out and do stuff with my family because it's earlier in the season. Big deal. But like when it gets later in the season, I think you're going to start seeing less and less if they're not already in a bubble. And then I don't see the Suns getting high enough on the list to surpass them. So the only way I really see it is if the Lakers Clippers catch fire and game on them because they're not that far back.
Right.
They're only like two and a half
Like about a
games.
2.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
So
think barring injury with the Utah Jazz, and I agree with you about Rudy Gobert. I actually believe Hassan Whiteside, when he's motivated, is better than Rudy Gobert. But that's
right.
always been Hassan Whiteside's issue. Was Hassan Whiteside, once he got that bag, right?
Yeah.
He mailed it in. And then you saw what he did in Miami, like that against the 76ers in the playoffs. Like the dude just steals money. So, but Rudy Gobert is like a competent Hassan Whiteside,
Right.
in stretches, that is, because Hassan
Right.
Whiteside led the NBA in blocks last season, but nobody really even knew it.
Right.
So, like,
I actually told
so
my
yeah,
brother that and he was looking at me like I was crazy. I was just like,
right.
bro, look it up. Like
hmm
I was like, that's crazy, bro. But like to talk about you mentioned him earlier, Anthony Davis injures his Achilles, and
hmm
we've seen how dangerous that could be with how long Kevin Durant was out for. Does this change? the Lakers' chances of repeating, or do you see them being super precautious, letting them not play for a couple weeks, and uh, and seeing what happens?
Okay, just to straight up answer the question, yes, this is a detriment to the team. Just to answer the question, it's a detriment to the team. It does hurt their title chances, but they are still. Anytime you have LeBron James, they're a contender.
Right.
Um, the reason why I say it hurts their title chances is because I'm coming from someone who's injured their Achilles before. I did not tear it. I injured my Achilles playing basketball in Adidas Superstar low top shoes. They're like this flat, right? I was playing one time. I didn't have my basketball shoes, and I got baited into playing, and my competitive juices, went flowing. And next thing you know, I'm playing, I'm running, and I feel a pull on my Achilles, and it was all bad. So what he has, they call it a calf strain. BS. Um, we heard that when KD had the calf strain, it
Yeah.
wound up being the Achilles because your Achilles, right, is connected to your gastrocnemius muscle, which is your calf muscle. So that's why when you rupture it, you're not able to walk, right? So that's the issue. So right now it's in the acute stage. Just to let everyone know, my degrees in kinesiology. I got my degree in kinesiology. So like, why are you talking medical? So when it's an acute stage, that's when you have like the initial swelling and things of that nature. If it doesn't heal properly, it can become chronic and chronic pain. So he needs to rest. He needs to ice. He needs to stretch. Make sure he can stretch. Calf muscles, all that kind of stuff, and strengthen the muscles around the tendon, etc. So they have to be precautious. If they're not precautious and he tears it, his season is done. So let's just get that out the way.
Right.
Now, as far as their title chances are, as long as you have LeBron James, and I know people get tired of hearing this all the time, but you are a contender. Now, some people will be like, but Kai, they're in the Western Conference. And initially you would think, yeah, they are in the Western Conference, and you have a Kawhi Leonard, you have a Paul George, but think about the the power shift that we saw last season and these over the past two seasons. The majority of the stars are actually in the East now. Let me break them down. We have Jimmy Butler in the East. We have Giannis Antetokounmpo in the East. We have KD, Kyrie. KD's now in the East with Kyrie, with James Harden, which we saw move to the East. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. I don't. You guys get where I'm coming from. So we have so many stars now in the East, and then we have stars that haven't really won anything in the West outside of Kawhi Leonard. I'm thinking I might be missing somebody else. And Steph Curry, obviously, Steph Curry, but Klay Thompson's not there.
Right.
So because of that, do not count LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers completely out because they have a team that is highly motivated and that shows up in the playoffs with guys like KCP, right? With guys like even the Wes Matthews,
Right.
Montrezl Harrell, not so much. Dennis Schroeder, okay, we'll see. But LeBron can right that ship. So I believe their title chances are at risk with AD being injured, and I believe they should rest him. But if he tears his Achilles, it is over. I'm just going to tell
Right.
you right now, if they tears his
Yeah.
Achilles, it is over. There we go. So,
Yeah. And like I know what you just said is like if you got LeBron, then you should be straight.
all right.
Like as far as making a serious title run, but like I do think like I'm sitting here looking at the standings. Like right now, if they were to start the playoffs, they'd play the Nuggets. And it's like watching how the Nuggets played last year. I feel like they gave them a run for their money,
Yeah.
and like to the point where LeBron had to really try. But I still could like I don't know. I don't have the confidence to say that the Nuggets are going to win. I certainly the Spurs are just like they just play really good team ball, but they don't have like nobody that can at least on his end match what LeBron's output is going to be.
All right. Yeah. And you have to
But
guard him on the other end, too.
right
So it's like,
then if they were able to run into
mm-hmm.
the Blazers irritate me because like for years they were just overachieving. Where
All right.
like the last couple of years, I you know what, 2 years ago I'll give them that pass because Jokic, not Jokic, but Nurkic
Yeah,
hurt
Nurkic.
his leg. So 2 years
Yeah,
ago
he
I'll
was
give them
out.
that. I'll let him slide. I'll let them slide on that one. But like I feel like last year should have been way more competitive, even with CJ McCollum and hurting his back. I do, but from what I remember, I think the injury bug bit them real bad because
Yeah.
I think Zach Collins and Rodney Hood didn't play, and
Yeah, Rodney
so
Hood got hurt.
like I don't know. That's one that would make me nervous as if I was the Lakers to try to run into that team as far as people that are on the bottom side. If AD ends up having to be out some serious
Extensively.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say with the Blazers, another issue I have, and I always say with a lot of people see players, right? The game is not played on paper. Coaches matter, right? And we know what Terry Stotts is. Last year, everyone's like, "Oh, the Blazers could possibly make a run." Look, man, I know Dame got hurt, but Terry Stotts, he put a rookie on Anthony Davis. It was barbecue chicken. Terry Stotts
Right.
is horrible at making adjustments. Mike Malone is horrible at making adjustments.
Yeah.
So you look at that, and LeBron will at least get you a series. Now, I, as a Laker fan, right, I know why LeBron James got Anthony Davis. And hey, look, whenever you get a championship, I'm not going to complain about it. But he said he activated playoff mode, and he was losing to teams under 500 last year. Or just excuse me, 2 years ago prior to Anthony Davis.
Right.
Anthony Davis came and then he led in every statistical category, right? Except for assist. He was a defensive player of the year candidate, which many people thought got snubbed, right? I'd never heard of anyone leading in every single category except assist and not getting an MVP vote. So Anthony Davis's impact is huge. So we're saying pretty much if he's out, LeBron could get you a series, but can he get you past the second round now?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So when I say contention, I'm talking about Anthony Davis. He gets some rest. He's still able to play. Maybe he's not 100, but he's about 85%. He can
Right.
contend. But once again, if AD is completely out, man, LeBron is getting older, right? And people are like, well, he's working hard. But if you look at his minutes, he's playing one of his lowest minutes he's played. Now we're going to see that ramp up unless
Right.
other guys can step up. And I don't believe in anyone outside of um I actually believe in Kuzma. Because Kuzma knows his role now.
Yeah.
I don't know what Schroeder's going to give you on this team in the playoffs. I know what Montrezl Harrell gave the Clippers last year, but he was
Right.
also out of shape and his grandmother had passed away. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So these are all different things. I think what's going to happen is in their front court, they're going to get beat and bruised because their problem is teams that play transition and do downhill pick and rolls. They attack Harrell and they attack Marc Gasol. Now with Anthony Davis gone, what you're going to have to do is get a big via trade or on the buyout market, like maybe bring back JaVale McGee. So
JaVale
yeah,
McGee.
JaVale McGee. So they have some options, but this Blake Griffin to the Lakers crap, stop it, man. Like, stop.
um, if
So
you're, where do you see
mhm.
this is last question, and then we're gonna talk about some football. Where do you see Blake Griffin going to?
To the Lakers.
Honestly,
Oh no, would I see him going to the Lakers?
no. Period. Just like
Oh, getting
obviously,
traded.
obviously they're talking about trading him. So
Yeah, yeah.
where do you see this happen? Him going?
Okay, so I see Blake Griffin. The furthest Blake Griffin is going to go is out of his mind because he's going to realize that he's stuck in Detroit. That's where I feel. Look, man. Look, he might get traded, but we got to think about this realistically, right? His contract. Who wants that money?
Right.
I don't want his contract. He's past his prime athletically. His body has failed him, and he's a liability on defense. Can he shoot? Sure, but he's not shooting well this season. So I actually look at Blake Griffin, and um, he might actually get shut down for the season because what happens is you can call teams right, and they can hang up. So I think that me personally, we have to look at that unless a trade has happened while we're on this show live right now.
Right.
But I could possibly see Blake Griffin staying in Detroit. But if he does go somewhere, it would have to be a. It's tough, man. It's tough because if you're a contending team, you got to think about okay, contract availability, injury prone. I mean, even Detroit Pistons fans don't want him. The
Well,
only fan base I have seen, Ralph, honestly, on social media is emotionally attached Clipper fans. I'm like, y'all disgust me. Like, I'm like, what? Like, literally, I'm not going to name any names, but there are some Clipper personnel, not on the front office, but like, Clipper accounts and media members and all that kind of stuff. We're just sitting up there talking about Blake Griffin, if he came back to the Clippers and won a ring, like, stop it, man. You trying to beat the Lakers with that? Stop, man. Kawhi didn't come to LA for that. So, um, I'm playing the dark horse role, and I'm saying that he could potentially be stay with the Pistons and just get shut down for the rest of the season, unless, like I said, during this show or during the week he gets traded. What do you think? Do you have maybe a list of teams, or how are you feeling about it?
I was just thinking. I have no inside source on this at all. I just be thinking about like, who needs a four
Mm,
that like it be worth it to get Blake Griffin.
yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
I was,
I feel you, but it's like,
and it's like, but then it's like that price tag.
right, an injury.
Like, yeah, like I'm just talking about price tag alone because it's like, all right, when you're when you don't have to be counted on every night, I think that
Mm,
saves your body to where like I can see him not being like his injury problem, depending on where he goes, I can see it not being an issue.
right.
But then I was just like, then I started looking at teams that need fours, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, because I was like, I think the Chris Paul thing, he's definitely not going to the Suns.
All right.
Uh,
They got 8.
I could kind of see a possibility of of the Clippers, but I think they just gonna rock with what they got.
I got a team.
Uh,
OKC.
True, he's from there.
He could go to OKC. Now the thing is though, they have to eat his contract, but they would have to. I think they're the one team that have the cap space because they have all those young guys and draft picks,
Yeah,
and they would have to give up some of that draft capital to go to OKC.
yeah,
So I think that's a team. They would have to eat. They would have to take the hit and eat it. Plus, OKC is not going to be winning anything anytime soon. They play hard, but ultimately they're going to be in the Amani Bates sweepstakes years down the line. So I think he could possibly go to OKC.
I can see that with him being from there,
Yeah.
selling tickets and just eating up his contract and just trying to sell
Mhm.
tickets while you build up your team. I can see it working.
Yeah.
Uh, but switch over to the NFL. I seen an article about Adrian Peterson stating he would like to pass Emmitt Smith's rushing record as well as chase rings until he's 40.
Mm.
Uh, After some of the phenomenal things that he's been able to do, and the fact that he just rushed for 1,000 yards 2 years ago or 2 seasons ago. Uh, where is he when it comes to your top running backs of all time, and
Mm.
what is your top five?
Okay. So I'm going to do this on the fly, actually. My top 5 running backs of all time. When I think of the running back position, I always like to look at what's the purpose of running back. It's to get the ball, get the pigskin, tuck it in your chest or your belly, whatever you want to call it. Some run like this, some run like this, and run from one area to the other area. So, number 1 is Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders played behind an atrocious line. Um, period. Barry Sanders is what Saquon Barkley is today. Barry Sanders was like the more elusive version of that
Yeah,
back then, and he had ultimate moves. He played with a horrible organization, and the reason why he's number 1, Ralph, on my list is there's no record of his decline.
true.
You feel me? He
Yeah,
was in his prime all the time, baby. So number 1 is Barry Sanders. Number 2, all right. Number two for me on the fly. Now this is on the fly. Okay, I got to go with LaDainian Tomlinson. Just being able to catch passes. He added that extra element. I know Marshall Faulk was there, but LaDainian Tomlinson was huge in the red zone, and I feel like it's harder to score in the red zone. when the defenses they get tighter, everyone is in the box, all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna forgive that buffoonery he did in the playoffs when he was standing on the sideline with his visor. I'm gonna forgive that. I'm gonna forgive that, and I'm gonna put LT number 2. Number 3 for me, right, is Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson is, we talk about the Jim Browns of the world and things of that nature. Adrian Peterson really faced 8 in the box with superior athletes, right?
Right.
So when you are the primary focus, like literally, he was the primary focus because even when Brett Favre was there, who was their best receiver? Sidney Rice. Is
Yeah.
he still in the league? So you
Right.
know what I'm saying? So Adrian Peterson was the primary guy, man. He had faced 8 in the box in Oklahoma. He faced 8 in the box in the NFL. Adrian Peterson, for me, is the third best back, okay, of all time. All right. And then number 4 on my list, I gotta go with the man himself, the myth himself. And our stream might get cut off by the CIA when I say it, but OJ Simpson is number 4, man. So I gotta go with I gotta go with OJ, man. He was so cold he could run through the airport, man.
The juice is loose.
Untouched, man.
The
OJ
juice is
Simpson. I gotta
loose.
go with OJ, man. OJ. And then number 5, man. Number 5, I have to go with someone dear to my heart, a personal favorite of mine, right? Is Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis. No. Like, I'm only saying this. This is my own biased opinion, right? I'm sure Eric Dickerson is more talented running backs. The only reason why I have Jamal Lewis is being a biased Ravens fan. He ran for 2,000 yards. He ran in the era when you had to tote the rock 40 times. You had the Derek Brooks of the world at linebacker. You
Yeah.
had the Lamont Kirklands at linebacker. You had the Brian Urlacher's at linebacker. You had all these different guys, Jesse Tucker, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
And when you have Trent Dilfer, when you have Elvis Gerback, or as we call him, Elvis Garbage, Kyle
Yeah.
Boller, Chris Redmond, Tony Banks, nobody knows who these scrubs are. Jamal Lewis, give Jamal the ball was the slogan in Baltimore, right? So I got to go with Jamal Lewis, number 5. And before I pass it over to you, the GOAT of all GOAT running backs to me is Christian Okoye, the Nigerian. Nah, I'm done, man. I'm done. But that's my top 5 guys. I just wanted to have a little bit of fun with you with that. So, what's your top 5, and where do you have AP, man?
So I'm gonna go and do this from the 5 up.
Okay, see, I like how you always go backwards.
So
Yeah.
like I like to build up the anticipation.
Okay.
Uh, and Edrin James, because I gotta have somebody
Ooh,
on there. Edrin James, that boy was nasty.
in the
Uh,
cold too.
right, right. That boy was
Mm.
cold, bro. And it was like it's crazy to think about like the the running backs that were under him that came
Yeah,
from
yeah,
you
yeah.
after that. So it's like this, just how nasty he was and how well he played for such a long time. Ran for over 12,000 yards. I almost put Fred Taylor at 5 just because he's a personal favorite of mine.
That's fair. That's fair.
Plus, he's on one of my favorite podcasts right now too. So
Okay.
shout
Yeah,
out
yeah,
Fred.
yeah. I am athlete. Yep.
Uh, so Adrian Peterson at 4. Just he is the bionic man. I remember when he first got drafted, he used to talk about how like strong his handshake was. New commercials used to have me cracking up laughing. It was like people with like broke hands,
Facts.
but like just blowing out his knee altogether entirely, and then playing like 8 9 months later, and then running for
Right.
like 1,000 yards. You're not supposed to be able to do that.
That's
So
crazy.
like just that alone, plus if for what a running back was intended to be, I don't think there's too many people that you can put at running back and be like, yo, this was a better prototypical old style running back.
Facts,
And
especially
so,
in his era.
right. And
Yeah.
so, like, with that, as much as I hated this dude because he used to kill the Raiders.
Okoye? No.
uh,
Let me stop this. Anyway.
LaDainian Tomlinson, LT, at 3.
That dude was
Man,
cold.
it wasn't too many holes in his game because earlier he had an issue with fumbling and blocking, but then once he figured all that out, it was a wrap, bro.
Right. And he was a
And
fantasy beast too.
right. He was always up there in touchdowns. And
Yeah.
then we gonna go my man Barry Sanders at 2. The human joystick.
Yeah.
Really, if Gail really he was like the son of a Gail Sayers.
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting. Yeah, Gail Sayers.
But Gail
Yeah.
Sayers didn't have that many years in there, just like my honorable mention as well. But
Right.
like this is it wasn't he played his offensive line was horrid. Like
Facts.
first of all, the offense was terrible. First of all, like not just like the offensive line, the wide receivers was trash, tight ends trash, and the quarterback was probably trash too.
Right.
But like
The mascot was probably just getting minimum wage, man.
right. But if you look back, even like I think he was the leading rusher in college football too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like that man, what more am I supposed to say about this man? But this last person is some I'm not even a Bears fan, but
I know.
someone that's who's near and dear to my heart. My man Walter Payton.
Walter Payton.
Sweet.
Walter Payton.
Sweet.
Gotta say it with your chest. Yeah. Walter Payton was cold. I think you can't go wrong with anyone at number 1 except for like, I don't know.
And Bo Jackson
Yeah.
was my
Oh.
honorable because
Career cut short, but Bo was cold.
Yeah. Just for
Yeah.
like just to the athlete that he was and what he was able to do, and this was like a hobby.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
That's bro. Yeah, you can't go like, especially with those older guys. Like, I wish I could have seen like the Jim Browns of the day play.
Yeah.
You know, because back then they were just playing with leather helmets, man. And that's
Right.
what I'm like. I try to consider it, but I also have to consider the level of competition is very, very real in all sports. I'm not saying he didn't face level of competition,
Right.
but it's just different, man. I just feel like
You could go out there
running
and get
back.
away with murder.
Yeah,
Back then, they was like,
right.
I seen this one clip. This dude caught a pass, homie clotheslined him. And it was cool. It was straight.
Right.
They was just like, well, fumble. Like, first of all, you just tried to murder that man.
right. Snap the legs in half.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, so I noticed something that about both of our lists though. We both had Adrian Peterson at about I think 3 or 4, and
Yeah.
we had no Emmitt Smith, the
I think
all-time leading rusher. So can you explain? Because I believe that your reasoning for not having him on yours is the same reason that I don't have him on mine. So I'm just curious to see what your reasoning behind that is. The
so.
all-time
If
leading
you
rusher.
look up the history of the offensive linemen and the best starting linemen
Yep.
and rank them, you're probably gonna find those teams that he was on somewhere within that top 25 list. And a lot of those teams, like they had a great offense
Mm-hmm.
and the playmaker of Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman. When you really look at Troy Aikman's numbers, they really compare very closely to Jay Cutler. But
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other conversation.
All right.
And then on top, you have one of the greatest left tackles of all time.
Preach.
And then on top of that, like you had a really good defense, so you're getting the ball back with more opportunity. And and that's not to say like it's the same thing when I said about Tom Brady. It's not to take away from how good Tom Brady is. I still was a top 3 quarterback, no matter who his coach is, what team he played on, just him. Period. Top 3 quarterback. You cannot argue him any less, especially after this last Super Bowl. No less than 2.
Understandable. Yep.
And so like it's not to sit here and diminish anybody, but like
Right.
I just think that Emmitt Smith was in the perfect situation with the perfect team. He has top 7, top 6 talent. It's just he played for the perfect situation in an era where they handed the ball off 30 times a game.
Yeah, and I have no qualms with what you said, and I was going to also mention because we talk about Jerry Rice and all that stuff, and we'll talk about top five receivers probably on another episode, but of all time. But in Jerry's situation, right? At least with Jerry, despite his perfect situation, he still was able to have numbers that were so out of this world. Where with Emmitt Smith, his numbers really weren't that out of this world
No,
compared to other guys. When we look at a Barry Sanders, when you look at a Frank Gore, when you look at
right.
these other guys. Now, obviously, Adrian Peterson missed the season, but it gives you cause to pause to be like, okay, what if some of these guys had another situation? Because it's not like their numbers are that far off. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Jerome Bettis was like fifth all time at one point, and then Asley, it's been like what 10 years now. But Jerome Bettis
That
was like
does
top
look.
five in rushing before too. So you
He's
start to
eight.
look at his numbers, and he never. You said he's eighth.
Yeah, he was five because then
Yeah, he was five for a while. Yeah,
LT, Adrian Peterson, and Frank Gore passed him
right. You see what I'm
after that.
saying? So yeah,
And that's a person I don't think gets enough credit.
yeah,
We just think of him like, oh, he's a big dude. He better be running like that. But he was
bro.
like,
Bettis.
yeah, he was a problem, bro.
Off the strength, though, if I wasn't being biased, Bettis would probably be straight up no bull, no BS and non-biased. He would probably be number five on my list off the strength because as a kid, like this dude, Ray Lewis is the only one who really popped him. He was just
Yeah,
so
bro. I was just
he
gonna
was
bring
like,
that up.
how Shaq was big and you think, oh, Shaq just he all he does is dunk. No, he had footwork.
Right,
Bettis had footwork, bro.
right, right.
Like this dude had the toe tap. He had to
Yeah,
spin.
yeah,
He could spin into the third down, and they used to frustrate me. I'm like, yo, just pop that bowling ball, bro. Like, you know what I'm
bro.
saying?
Yeah. I remember like it wasn't
Bettis was
even like
cold.
just the not just Madden. It was game day,
Yeah,
bro. He was cold on game day.
bro. As a Ravens fan, let me tell you, every time the Steelers were in the playoffs and Bettis and it was cold or something like that, bro, I used to hate watching the Ravens at home and the Steelers just run Bettis to the ground. And he used to just abuse teams, man. Like I have a nightmare. See, I gotta go back and watch more Bettis highlights, man. It's been a minute, but that boy Bettis gave me nightmares, bro.
Really?
Oh, so but anyway, man,
Yo, but he was cold, bro. But
yeah.
like, so free agency has started.
All right,
Uh,
meat
people
of
getting
the sport.
cut, and the All American. Everybody loves this dude, J.J. Watt. Uh, was released after asking to be cut. Do Where do you think is the best landing spot for him?
Okay, so let me just give our viewers some spots for them. I'm not going to give them 10 different spots, but first and foremost, JJ Watt has already mentioned that he would like to join a contender. So I automatically eliminated teams that are not contending teams, right? And I'm thinking about financial situations as well. And so my list right now, it's not completely cohesive, but my list right now in terms of I think the potential landing spots he'll probably wind up either in. I have first and foremost the Baltimore Ravens because I'm a Ravens fan and I know a lot about kind of the insides and outs of that team. So here's why. First, the Baltimore Ravens are a contender. Over the past 3 seasons, the Baltimore Ravens are a contender, right?
Right,
They're in win now mode. Secondly, he has a very close relationship with the defensive line coach Anthony Weaver, who was the defensive coordinator, right, with the Houston Texans. So if we remember in JJ Watt's press conference before the one where he talked about his release, he spoke extremely glowingly of Anthony Weaver. Then I was on Twitter, and we see like people like Sarah Ellison, who used to work for the Baltimore Ravens for 13 years. We see Ravens fans, obviously, they're like, it sounds like a Raven. It does sound like a Raven, and I kind of chuckled. You know what I'm saying? But I know Watt's past his prime, and I'm not like, oh my goodness, let's get JJ Watt because I'm
right,
more. I want a receiver. There's things that I want,
right.
but I could see him possibly going there. So then I look at our situation for the Baltimore Ravens right now. We have these unrestricted free agents. We have Yannick Ngakoue, which we acquired from a trade. He's age 25. We had Matthew Judon. It seems like every year, what are we doing with Judon, franchise tagging Judon, etc. He's 29. He's a hybrid, can play the run, can play the pass. We have Tyus Bowser. We have Pernell McPhee. 32 years old, 1 year contract, unrestricted free agent. He's a veteran. Ngakoue had 8 sacks last season. Judon had 6 sacks last season. Bowser, a backup, had 2 sacks last season. McPhee, a backup, had 3 sacks last season. So I would think it would probably behoove the Ravens that they're going to wind up either re-signing um, Matthew Judon, or they could let go of Ngakoue and a Matthew Judon. So when you couple in the fact that Anthony Weaver has extremely close relationship with J.J. Watt, he loves Weaver, right? You factor in the fact that Baltimore Ravens is an established and esteemed defense and establishing a esteemed contender who already has a secondary, right? That J.J. Watt doesn't have to do much work in. They treat their veterans extremely well, right? And they have the cap space that they could acquire a J.J. Watt. They're looking at around like 18 to 20 million in cap this offseason. J.J. Watt could possibly go to the Baltimore Ravens. I think he's actually a top 2 contender. I also have the Cleveland Browns at about like maybe about 4 or 5. The reason why the Cleveland Browns is because they were a contender this past season. If we're going based off the fact that they made the AFC Championship game, he can play alongside a Myles Garrett, and it's a position of need. His pass rush could help with their back end. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I actually believe, is the number 1 spot for J.J. Watt. Here's why. Cap space, you're looking at about 38.1 million. They are currently the defending Super Bowl champions. They have complementary pass rushing pieces in Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, Devin White, Levante David, and they're going to lose Shaquille Barrett. He's looking at around $20 million, $25 million contract. Devin White was actually on TV a couple days ago after the Super Bowl. When asked about who does he see potentially leaving because they want to, retain guys, he's like Barrett. He's like Barrett got to go get his money. You know what I'm saying? Shaquille Barrett played behind what's the guy from I think DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller.
Yeah,
He played behind those guys and won a ring with the Bucks. He was on the I want to say, but then they got Bradley Chubb, right?
yeah,
You have things of that nature. So Shaquille Barrett's been around the block. And now it's like, okay, I won my ring. Now it's time for me to cash out. I've been sacrificing everywhere I go. He loves the Bucks, but it's time to get that bag.
right.
Also, no state income tax. Tom Brady, you go with the best quarterback. You go with the warm weather. You can get you're not going to get paid as much money, but you're a situational pass rusher, and you're not asked to do much being injury prone. So I think he could see that. I don't think it's about the money with J.J. Watt. I believe J.J. Watt has made the most amount of money so far in
Right,
his
right.
career. The Steelers, their quarterback situation is shaky. When you look at Ben Roethlisberger being older, Ben Roethlisberger not being able to push the ball down the field, cap space. The Steelers don't really have that cap space. Everyone's talking about, oh, his brother. That's not compelling to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about, TJ Watt and his brother. You know what I'm saying? Who cares, man? Like that, give me a real reason other than his brother. If that was the case,
I
Giannis
I do
joined,
think that
like,
the as good as that defense is, he
yeah.
wouldn't have to work as hard. So I do think from a
Hmm.
defensive standpoint, and not just plus playing alongside his brother, but how good that
Yeah.
defense is.
That's what I was gonna get to. I agree. I'm just saying don't use the brother as the number one
Yeah,
reason. I think he's a complimentary reason, but I'm looking at the fact that they're probably going to lose Juju Smith-Schuster. So I think
right.
when you start to get into the little nitty gritty details of the Steelers, you're like,
Yeah,
oh, wait a second. They're trying to usher in Dwayne Haskins as J.J. Watt. Do I really want to be around there? So my
right.
top 2 contenders are the Bucks, actually, and the Ravens. I think he's going to end up in one of those 2 situations. So that's kind of what I look at. What are you looking at on your end in terms of potential places or the best place for him?
I think the best place for him is, I would say, the Ravens or the Steelers. Just for the things that we both have pointed out. Um, they just have more to offer, an actual
Mm-hmm.
chance of winning. Outside of Tampa Bay, obviously.
Right.
Um,
You don't want Brady to get that extra ring though.
huh?
I was like, you don't want Brady to get that extra ring though. I was like, don't do it
No,
yet.
I do not. No, I do not. Honestly, but those destinations. I'm just sitting over here looking at the free agents. of this free agent class.
Yeah, it's
Who
nice. It's nice.
who are some free agents or people that you have your eye on, and who do you think is actually going to have the biggest impact on the team
Okay.
that if they re-sign with their current team or even go to a new team?
So the number one, I'm going to get out the way, Shaquille Barrett. Shaquille Barrett is the best one out there. I believe so. Whatever team gets him, and they're going to pay a king's ransom, Shaquille Barrett. So that's number one. And then um, I like to look at Patrick Peterson is a sleeper. Patrick Peterson could play alongside a team that's in secondary help, right? That has a good pass rush. Um, he's a guy that I could see potentially being on a contending team. So I'm looking at Patrick Peterson. And then another piece for me would be for the Ravens would be a Corey Davis. Corey Davis is a big bodied possession receiver. He's 26 years old. He's 2 years younger than Kenny Galladay, which it sounds like he might be getting franchise tagged, but this free agency class is filled with guys like Allen Robinson, Galladay, Corey Davis, some of those names. I believe that he would fit perfectly with Lamar Jackson. You can move Hollywood to that 2 or that 3 spot. Gets yards after the catch, big catch radius, okay? And he's already played in the offense that's run first, so he knows how to run block. He's coming from the Tennessee Titans where they had a 2,000-yard rusher. So I think while everyone's like, oh, Allen Robinson, but we don't have the cap space for Allen Robinson. And if you know anything about the Bears, he was complaining in training camp about Mitchell Trubisky and deep ball accuracy, something that Lamar struggles with. So I think Corey Davis fits a red zone need, a moving the chains need, an outside the numbers need, and he won't be as expensive. So I'm looking at Corey Davis, I'm looking at Patrick Peterson, and I am looking at Shaquille Barrett as my three free agents um, so far. So yeah.
I think for me, I agree with the Shaq Barrett,
Shaq.
um, because the numbers he's been putting up the last 2 seasons. If you can get him in the right system where he got some help on the other side, and you don't have to just edge like
Can
chip
the
on
Raiders
him.
can the Raiders get him? You have
I
space
don't
for
know.
him?
I don't know if we got that kind of money,
Okay.
especially for like such. He's gonna want the bag. He's gonna want the bag, the whole
Right.
bag, and nothing but the bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't even know if I would even want us to go after somebody like that. But like, yeah, him.
It'd be nice.
Uh,
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Justin Simmons,
Ooh, ooh. I like that.
even though he plays for the Broncos. I still like am a huge fan of his.
All right.
Um,
Come over to Oakland. Come on over to Oakland. That's what you're saying.
right, facts, facts. Do that because we need safety help. We need all the help we can get in the
Facts. That's the only thing that you guys need, really, that defense. Get
right.
that defense right.
And I've always been a big fan of Leonard Williams,
Okay.
and him being a like this past season, he had a career high with 13 sacks.
Mm.
Um,
Yeesh.
Still young because I believe he just finished his rookie contract.
Right, right.
So if he doesn't get what do you call it franchise tagged, then I would go after him if I needed help on the pass rush, and we could use all
Okay.
the help we could get. Especially with I don't think his contract is crazy what he would bring up or bring
Yeah.
back. It just depends because a lot of times with the contracts you be like, oh, that's a lot of money, but it's depending on how much of it is fully guaranteed.
All right.
And he's looking to get about 33 million guaranteed for a 4-year contract. So that's not too crazy.
Yeah, it's not too crazy. It's feasible.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's feasible. I was gonna say, yeah,
Go ahead, buddy.
I was gonna say AJ Green. Now, look, man, you will
Retire.
never see me ever again on the show, Ravens. Don't do it. Don't do it, Eric. Don't do it, man. Look, man.
I feel
Well,
like every year
look,
he got hurt though, bro.
look, bro. You had people saying, "Oh, he was rated higher than Julio Jones coming out." Look, man. Yeah, that was in college, bro. And he had a nice little career with Carson, whatever, Carson Palmer, and and all that. But Carson Palmer, man, he overthrew so many passes, and Andy Dalton. But AJ Green mailed it in last year. I wouldn't want to live in Cincinnati, Ohio. Personally, this is not a shot. This is not my style. Anybody from Cincinnati watching the show, but AJ Green is that old savvy veteran receiver, injury prone, passes prime that the Ravens like, and don't do it. Don't do it. I'm telling you, man.
Yeah.
I will be missing in action. An APB will be put out on me. CIA will be trying to find me, man. Like, don't do it, Ravens. Don't. Just go get Corey Davis. You know what I'm saying? And
And did
just
Jameis
work.
Winston go back to the Saints?
So what?
Did Jameis Winston, is he staying with the Saints?
I actually believe so. Him and Taysom Hill, because I think what's going to happen is they're going to use somebody as a what do they call it, like a bridge for
Yeah.
maybe another quarterback. So see what they get out, But Taysom Hill can't be your long term starter.
Mm-mm.
So yeah. So yeah.
But yeah, thanks guys. Thank you all for watching. We're officially on streaming now on live on Twitch, YouTube, as well as Facebook. I got my new laptop, so I will
Woo!
have this episode put on YouTube as well within the next 24 hours. Make sure you go on when you search for us on all three. Just look up the all one word He Say She Say Sports Show. It's on the ticker on the bottom of the screen. You can catch me on Instagram at KYNGRALPH. That's also my name on Twitch as well.
And
Um,
you can catch me at the.house of hoops on Instagram.
all right. Catch us on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Bye.
Peace.